Okay, I think we can start now. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is an international call. We've got some great stuff on today's training. As always, is the policy. We like to continue to mix things up, never do the same thing more than once, or at least not for a few months anyway, so that everyone, every time you come on one of these sessions, you're going to see something new. Ray couldn't be with us today. I mean, one thing I haven't mentioned previously is Ray is not only a successful traditional businessman, he's also an extremely good musician as well, a session musician. He works with a lot of world-class stars around the world, doing backing guitar. He's a very, very good guitar player, so he's actually off doing that this weekend. I can't remember who he's working with, but it's usually someone pretty serious. So today we've got a special guest speaker, Hugh McAlinden. I haven't worked with Hugh before, but I have to say I've been extremely impressed over the few months that I've been working with him. He's extremely organized. He's a real leader. Just a bit of background on him. He's has a very successful traditional business background. He's also been in network marketing for many years. Again, top income earner in most of the businesses he's been involved in. He's also done a lot on things like he's a master NLP practitioner, which is neuro-linguistic programming, bit of a mouthful. And by the way, and I was just saying this to you, perhaps this is something that we might actually do a training session on. Because it's something that I also practice. I'm not an expert in it by any means, but how you, our brains are a computer, and what you put in them is what you get out. And so if you're feeding negativity into your mindset, can't do attitude, that kind of thing, that is really going to hold you back. As Henry Ford said, the founder of Ford Motor Company, he said, if you think you can and you think you can't, you're probably right. So it is a very valuable skill to have, to be able to literally change your mindset if you're having a down day, if you're having setbacks. And it's something you'll hear me talk about a lot in this business. Everyone gets setbacks in the business. It is all part of the business. It's just like a traditional business in that respect. You're going to get challenges, setbacks, disappointments, and it's how you manage those moving forward. So NLP is a very useful tool to be able to use for that. So Hugh's bringing a wealth of experience to this call, and I'm really looking forward to his presentation. It's not going to be that long, but he's going to be focusing on building a wealth base. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Hugh.
Hey, Richard. Yes, thanks for the introduction, and it's great to see so many people on the call here this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you join us from in the world. Earlier today, I have been doing calls to a team in Australia who are building extremely well. I've been doing some calls into the UK and as far away as across into Eastern Europe. So it's an incredible opportunity that we've got our hands on. And as Richard rightly knows, when I first looked into this concept, it's probably fair to say that I would describe myself as something of a reluctant participant into it. I'm just going to share screens here for just one moment so you can let me know that it's all come up in it and it's looking okay.
Yeah, that's fine, Hugh. Let's pop that.
Okay, thanks, Richard. So what I'm going to be discussing with you this morning over the next few minutes is why CFX. And why I say why CFX is quite simple. From the outset, I first became aware of this company back in the early part of this year, which seems like an eternity now, considering what many of us have been living through over the last 10 months. But I go right back to early January, and a good friend of mine first mentioned the CFX concept to me, and I was genuinely very dismissive of it. I didn't even look at it. I probably didn't bat an eyelid. I just simply said, look, sounds wonderful, but it's not for me. Internally, and this is what Richard's talking about when I speak about NLP, I talk about common sense consciously applied. It's not magic. It's not anything out of this world. It's just how we speak to ourselves on a regular basis. And at that particular stage, I had all my business plans and my goals and everything set out for 2020. Indeed, for the most of the decade, I thought the plans that I had in place were pretty much set in stone. Obviously, open to movement, but pretty much set in stone. So when it was mentioned to me, I just thought, sounds like one of them things, and it's not for me. I don't want to be distracted. I'm not even going to look at it, and that's literally where I was. February, actually, someone else met me for coffee. We had a catch up. He started to tell me about the CFX story, and to be brutally honest, internally, I was rolling my eyes yet again. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, not another one, you know. It happened in February because I run mastermind and coaching groups as well, in March. And again, one of the guys as part of my group come up and mentioned it to me, and yet again, I said no. So sometimes if you follow the Christian biblical stories, I felt like Peter. I refused the business 3 times. That changed significantly, not immediately, because again, someone approached me in early April, and yet again, I was dismissive of it. But the I suppose that the drawstring between each of those was the fact that I had never once stopped to actually take the information on board. And the last person who actually mentioned it to me then persisted with me over the next few weeks, right through what we call the Easter season. And by the latter part of April, he was kind of starting to wear me down to an extent where I said, okay, come and show me what's so exciting about this CFX opportunity. And obviously, we were living through lockdown and various different things. So we spent a few days to and fro on the phone. He took me through a presentation. He actually then connected me with Richard. And I give Richard, I think it's fair to say, he'll admit a serious willing on what we were doing here. I tentatively decided to get engaged in the business, and I purchased that $300 Academy and Trading package, like many people in the business. And even at that stage, I wasn't completely convinced, but I was starting to warm to the idea. Richard introduced me then to John Kinnear, and eventually I got chatting with Ron Pope as well. And I come to realize how incredible the opportunity was that we've got our hands on. And I've been in business, I've been self-employed for 22 years, and prior to that, I worked for nearly a decade in the corporate world, rising my way up from being a relief rep to becoming the national sales manager of one of Ireland's leading fresh food producers before leaving that to set up my own company in 1999. And why I tell you this is that if I get a hold of something and I can see it's got merit, I will be like a dog with a bone. I will go at it, as we say here in Ireland or across the UK, hell for leather to make something work and to maximize it. But I've also been, over the last 22 years, set up a number of conventional businesses where I have found myself in a situation where I've created incredible pressure simply because I've been determined to achieve or get something done. And therefore, when you start a conventional business, quite often you have to lean heavily either on existing funds, you have to maybe tap into families' funds, you may have to remortgage your home, which would be extremely difficult in the current climate. But over the years, I've remortgaged my home a couple of times just to get businesses off the ground. I think on 3 different occasions, 2 of them thankfully successfully, and 1 of them not so successfully. So when you've got to dust yourself down and gather yourself up, I understand what pressure is like. And today we're living in a climate that to me is completely uncharted. There's no one alive today that can actually comprehend what we're actually going through, simply because the recession that we're living through today is unlike anything else that has ever came before. I have worked through the equivalent of 3 working recessions. In fact, this is the 4th over 3 decades in business. At the end of the 80s and the early 90s, some people might recall, in those days when interest rates were typically anywhere across Northern Europe from as little as 17 to as much as 21 or 22%, which was great news if you were fortunate enough to have any actual savings. But it was horrendous news if you were trying to pay off a mortgage, pay off a business loan, car loan, credit cards, and the likes. Indeed, I recall at the time newspaper headlines all across Ireland and the UK and Europe were consistently recording some of the highest home repossessions that there had ever been in documented history. And I think little did those people realize, or certainly the newspaper headline writers, that if they had a crystal ball, they would be continuing to write them time and time again, decade after decade. So we had the so-called dot-com revolution and bust. We had the global financial crisis of 2008, which we're still feeling the ramifications of today, before what happened with the COVID and coronavirus crisis all across the world. And the reason that I share this with you is there's a massive, significant difference between what happened in those earlier recessions and what's happening today. Because in those earlier recessions, they were either geographically specific, or perhaps industry specific. I'm speaking to so many people today, and it doesn't matter whether they're employed, unemployed, or self employed, they're certainly feeling the shock of what's been happening. Many big, stable companies, indeed friends of mine who've been in business for decades, have now seen their business go to the wall through no fault of their own. Big financial institutions that have heavily invested in stocks and shares over the years have seen chunks of their portfolio wiped out overnight. So when I was looking at the CFX business and I was having these conversations with Richard, and I think Richard will even recall, sometime after I was involved in the business, I rang him up one day and I practically threw my toys out of the cot. I said, Richard, I've been building this thing and there doesn't appear to be any money in it. And my friends who were telling me that I was mad to be involved in CFX business kept hammering me, you're pumping money back into that project, you're pumping money back into that project, when are you going to get some that you can keep for yourself? And it's important, and the real dawning of the magnitude of the income that you can develop from CFX doesn't necessarily happen to you the first few weeks or the first few months you're involved in the business. And particularly if you're trading in some of the smaller packages, as you start to build up what I now describe as your wealth base. And I know that a few weeks back, or maybe a month or two ago, Richard, or not Ray actually done a presentation not that dissimilar when he talked about the golden goose, or the goose that lays the golden egg, and that resonated with me such in an incredible format that it brought me back to the days whenever I launched my own conventional business. And I'm sharing some of this story with you just basically to put in context the actual opportunity that we have in our hands here and how big this wealth base can actually become. I have been involved in the conversations that I'm having with people all across the world at this moment in time, and I'm literally building businesses in every single continent. And I gather that there's a lot of fear out there amongst people. We're looking to our governments for leadership, and there's very little leadership. We're looking to our business leaders, and at the moment, through no fault of their own, they're very worried. So therefore, financial security is absolutely non-existent. There are people at no other time, certainly since I have been involved in business, sales, and marketing, who are actively seeking and pursuing ways of replacing rapidly lost and dwindling income, simply because there's just so much uncertainty out there at this moment in time. Indeed, to some extent, the very fabric, our social fabric, is literally being ripped apart. We hear stories of food banks, we hear stories of people living off social security, and when I hear politicians saying we're all in this together, I can't help but think, what a load of crap. Ask some of those governmental ministers, whilst their people are being paid off, are being asked to live on a furlough, ask them to live on some of the income support systems that they're trying to put out there, no matter what country you live in across the world, and I think they'd give you back a blank look very, very quickly. So considering all that's going on out there at this moment in time, considering many of us have got great skill sets, many of us perhaps have got experience in various different industries that we may well consider somewhere down the road putting into a potential business. But they're fraught with difficulties as well, because I know I started my first telecom business, which is still successfully trading today, way back in 2002. And in those days, I had to remortgage my home just to get the business off the ground. The cost of setting up a conventional business and the stress go with it, sometimes in normal economic environments, certainly isn't worth it. And in today's economic climate, it's much more difficult. I just about cleared off that mortgage whenever my brother and I set up our first restaurant back in 2006. And again, money in those days was relatively easy to get your hands on. So if you had any equity in your home, they were queuing up to get their hands on it in terms of institutions, banking institutions and the like. So the typical type of costs that go with it. In that stage then we had to purchase a large building, or in fact we couldn't purchase it. It was on a busy site. So we spent a lot of money renting it, and we actually set aside over $600,000 to put that project together. So whether it's building a retail business, whether it's building a store, whether it's fitting out, or whatever the case might be, it doesn't matter what the nature of that business is. There's a heck of a lot of fixed costs involved. There's staff involved, minimal staff. No matter what it is today, that's a lot of responsibility. There's maintenance ongoing, there's stock, there's supplies, there's constant cost today all of the other aspects of it. If you're in business today, you definitely need to have some aspect of social presence. It's very difficult to survive. In fact, one of the key reasons why our business flourished, particularly our restaurant business during the difficult times of the global financial crisis of 2008, pretty much right through to 2012, we were still feeling the ramifications of that. But thanks to the internet and thanks to what we were doing on social media, we built a base of over 130,000 active followers in one of the restaurants. And through that, consistently, we were enjoying people in the restaurant well in excess of 3,000 people a week on a regular basis, thanks to the efforts and thanks to the work. But again, that come with considerable cost. You cannot do that on a shoestring. You certainly can't get a business off the ground. Professional fees that you've got to take into account, your solicitor's fees. In our case, because of the restaurant situation, we were also opening up a licensed restaurant, so therefore we needed court fees and everything else. We needed accountancy, business plans for the bank, and these fees, guys, just keep racking up time and time again. This is something that a lot of people don't consider, is placing value on their own time. Too many people out there think their own time is worthless, which is one of the reasons also I've come to realize in years, while professional practitioners within complementary therapies and coaching and the likes of things don't place enough value on their time. And certainly if you're launching a business, if you have walked out of a job and you're getting at least even what that salary is worth, people don't take that into account when they're putting together a conventional business. Taxes from the outset. It's okay at saying, well, we'll pay the if we make profit, we'd pay taxes and not down the road. But what about instant taxes, such as regional taxes, rates, governmental taxes on your building? Guys, the bills just keep coming in. The miscellaneous, the stuff that breaks down, things that are going on all the time. So what is it that's significantly different about the opportunity that we have here? When people launch businesses as well, they get their first good, let's say, for example, in a restaurant, let's say in a retail store, you get a good week's taken. So you've just opened up your store, you've been pumping cash out, and all of a sudden, you've got your hands on some cash that you might have completely forgot about, or not forgot about, but you think, oh, happy days, the days of pumping cash out have gone, and now we're starting to pull the cash out. Where many businesses actually feel inside the first 3 to 4 months is that they forget that cash is going to be needed to replenish their business. You simply just can't take it out. You can't go and spend it. You can't go and have a good holiday. You can't blow it on a nice car, and you certainly can't buy yourself or your partner a nice watch or a ring or whatever the case might be. You're going to need that capital to fund your business. And this, to me, is one of the key fundamentals about what I would describe as building your wealth base within your CFX business. Because whenever you have generated that cash, if you've just started with a modest $300 package or a $500 package or a $1,000 package, you're going to need to build a bit of a wealth base before you can start to actually take it out and really enjoy the significant returns. So effectively, pretty much in the same way, I've owned retail businesses as well, both in the grocery sector as well as the restaurants. And each time when we were going through the stock, we had to replenish the stock. So in other words, you just can't take all the cash out. If you drain your business of all of your cash right from the very start, how are you going to keep customers coming back if you don't have stock that they're looking for when they re-enter your store? So this is something that we've got to be very conscious of when we're building our business. So effectively, you've got to keep using that cash in the early stages until you've got enough to look after yourself comfortably, and that will come. And that's the bit that's exciting me about what we're doing with CFX. When I rang Richard and said, Richard, I'm pumping a lot of cash back into this business to get it off the ground. My friends are telling me I'm crazy. He said, Hugh, just be patient. The good days will come. When you get your business above 2, 3, 5 grand and beyond, you'll be amazed at how much wealth you can actually create. And when he used the word wealth, it started to resonate with me. And so it is with our CFX business, guys. As we start to establish our business, we start at where we can afford to. I keep saying to people all of the time, never spend a penny more than is going to cost you a moment's sleep. You're not remortgaging the home like what happened to me. And I can still recall during the tough times of the financial crisis of 2008, waking up in the middle of the night, literally the bed sheets had to be changed. I wasn't aware that it was under pressure, but my body obviously was, and my mind was soaking with sweat. I was under that much pressure. and it just filtered through. So I understand what it's like to be at the cutting thrust of having everything on the line. We're not in that situation with CFX. Richard and John Kinnear and myself and many other people, Ray and some of the other leaders who are on this call, have done their due diligence. They have done the research. They understand what we've got our hands on. And even that said, I continue to say to people, only start with what you can afford. Don't spend a penny more than is going to cost you a moment's sleep, because here we have a situation where people can actually launch and start their own business for as little as $300. Richard started his business with $300. Today, he's trading a $100,000 package, and I think Richard might confirm this shortly, but I think he's told me he's renewed that at least 4 times, if not heading for his 5th time, and he's constantly renewing it now. And we know the level of profit that comes off those $100,000 packages. So considering here in the UK or in Ireland, that's about, for me, it's about £240 sterling, including fees and stuff at this moment in time. It's for nothing. And bear in mind that we're not ongoing, we're not dipping our hands in our pockets. It's a one-time entry into the fee, into the business. So in just the same way as I had to replenish my businesses with steak, with sausages, with baps, with whatever else was coming through the door, in the same way when I built my telecom business, I had to buy a considerable amount of stock within the phone system market when we were building that. I had to buy stocks and mobile phones. I was constantly replenishing that stock. And many times that stock was going out the door with little or no margin made on it for us at all, simply turning cash and continuing to pay bills. So in this situation here, when you've gone from a 300 to a 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 till 2,000 and so on, folks, you're able to do that using the capital that you're generating from your business in just the same way as any conventional business owner will be replenishing the stock in their conventional business in order to keep their business afloat, in order to make ongoing profits. So sometimes what I describe it as deferred gratification. In other words, if you spend the cash immediately, you're going to have nothing to continue to build your business. It doesn't matter whether you're a builder, whatever your business is, you're constantly having to replenish it. But there will come a point in this business when that replenishing starts to ease off, and you can actually start to keep and enjoy the type of income that's worthy of this business that we've got our hands on. So all we're simply doing here is what I describe as continuing to build your wealth base as you replenish your stock. And effectively, that's what's happening as we go through the various different upgrades. I started this business with just one $300 account, and today, a week later, my wife purchased a $300 account, my son purchased a $300 account, and today, as I'm chatting to you, just over 6 months later, collectively, we're trading $50,000 worth of accounts, all of which have been replenished using the profits that we have made from the business. And in addition to that, we have literally pulled tens of thousands of US dollars out of this business as well. Net, that is money that we're keeping. That is money that we're able to spend. My daughter's university fees arrived in for her first semester at university just a few weeks ago, and I was able to use my disposable income from a CFX business simply because it was there. Without the CFX business, and certainly within the current economic climate that we're living in, I would have been having to go to dip in to reserves that I wouldn't have been sure I could replenish anytime in the very near future. So the fact now that CFX is allowing me to enjoy considerable disposable income, thanks to Richard's efforts, that of my sponsor Adrian and Donal, and all of the people who have helped me build the business, guys, it's incredible what CFX can do. And it's important to understand that what we're doing here is building a wealth base that will now today look after us long into the future. Effectively, what I now describe as what we have our hands on is the golden ticket that just keeps on giving. Many of us will know people who frequently buy lottery tickets in the hope that they're going to win a fortune, when they know right well deep down they have little or no chance of that ever happening. At something like 140 million to 1, they haven't a pup in hell's chance. But yet again, if they're not in, they haven't got a hope. The situation here is, for me, I feel like every weekend now on a Saturday, like I'm winning the lottery on a regular basis. Every single week now, the money's coming in, week out, week in, week out. And yes, I'm continuing to upgrade and build that wealth base through my packages, but I'm keeping plenty of it as well. And are so many people in my team today. I've built a team in 6 months that's got over 15 executives in it. I think we're going to break another couple today. We've got 3 or 4 managers in our teams. We've got a couple of directors, including myself, and the business continues to grow. And all of these people can testify pretty much to the same thing as me. That aspect of delayed gratification for a few weeks, we're not talking major time here, not compared to conventional business, but literally over a few weeks and a few months, a bit of deferred gratification by using our profit and capital to build up that wealth base. And I can tell you now for sure, once you get that above 3,000-5,000 and above, the steps that are in place will allow you to give yourself as much gratification as you like. Richard has qualified for the Porsche. There are a few other customers in the UK who have qualified for it as well. Even if you don't want a Porsche, you can certainly buy a nice car that will keep you driving comfortably for quite some time. There are people who are already looking at this and who are able to pay their mortgages thanks to this business. And in the very near future, there are people, thanks to that delayed gratification, thanks to replenishing your home, will build a business that will keep them comfortable for years to come. And I think the other exciting thing for me is the fact that we're using cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin, because as I'm withdrawing profits from the business, on top of what I'm making from the wealth base building inside the business, so my cryptocurrency and my Bitcoin portfolio is increasing significantly as well. And all of the other gifts and all of the other things that you want to do, folks, will come in due course. Remember, what you're building here is a wealth base, the same way as any conventional business owner out there has been trying to do. And I'm sure all of us can relate to business owners who have seen their business crumble, that they have spent some of them years and decades building up in just a short space of time. So your engagement in CFX now and your efforts in building your wealth base will look after you and your family for years to come. Just remember, it's only short-term delayed gratification. Build that wealth base, folks, and you will literally transform your life and the lives of so many other people around you. And you can put that smile on your face, let the hair grow if you like, and do whatever. So all remains for me is to say thank you for being a patient audience. I'm going to pass you back to Richard. I hope this is of some help to you guys, but get out there, get engaged. You'll be amazed at what you can do for yourself, for your family, and for your friends. Be positive, stand up, and be counted, because CFX is happening. We've got a 16-month track record now, and we have many more good days to come. So Richard, thank you for the kind invite to share this information. I hope it's of help to some of the people on the team. It has certainly changed the whole thinking path through my organization over the last few months.
Thank you. Brilliant training. And yes, absolutely. This is something that's very close to my heart. It's something that if you've been on previous trainings, you'll hear me talk about regularly, is the importance of treating your CFX business as a real business. If you treat it as a real business, then it will grow like a real business. And as an example that I often use, and John's probably on the call, one of the guys on my team, John Bone, his background, he's a window cleaner. And you'd think that it wouldn't cost much to set up a window cleaning operation, but it's a traditional business and it costs money. And of course, when he first started, he had to buy £3,000 worth of equipment to actually do the clean the windows, water softeners, that kind of thing. And he had to buy his van to be able to drive that equipment around, which was another £8,000. So you're already looking at £12,000, £11,000 there as a starter. And then it took him 5 years of hard graft, getting out there, working day in, day out to build his round to have a good income. In comparison, you look at CFX, you can start for as little as $300 and that's it. You don't put any more money in. You don't have to have any employees. You don't need any additional overheads. You can work from home. And so, it's remarkable that you can start off so small. And if you treat the business seriously, and this is the thing, again, you'll have heard me talk about this, in traditional business, you have the stick and you have the carrot. You set up a traditional business because you want to make money. That's the carrot. You're working towards making money from your traditional business. The stick is that if you don't get up every single day and work that business hard, you will go out of business, particularly if you're in a business that has overheads, whether it's a shop, whether you've got employees, etc. You have to pay those employees, etc. So you can't afford to back off for 1 second. But in CFX, you can get to the end of the week, and if you haven't done anything, it's okay. It's not really going to cause a disaster. But if your goal is to change your financial future, now one of the things I should just add to that, to put that in parenthesis, of course, every single member in CFX are going to change their financial future. If someone joins just for $300 and decides to do absolutely nothing, just keep an eye on their account and let it grow over time, sure, it's going to probably take you, 6, 7, 8 years to get up to the 100K pack, but it must be put into perspective when you compare that with, for example, a pension. If you look at a pension as an example, that's going to cost you, say, $300 a month for 40 years to give you an income of around about $20,000 pounds a year, something like that, which is fine. That's a system that works. You compare that with CFX, $300 one time, as opposed to $150,000 over 40 years. $300 one time to give you an income of $100,000 a year, depending on trading returns, is a very, very good deal. One thing I think you'll see, by the way, is that even people that come in to CFX with $300 and have zero intention of referring people will refer people, particularly once we get the copy trading, particularly once they see their own accounts growing and that kind of thing. I think it's going to be very difficult for people not to actually refer people. If you're getting up to a 10 or 20K pack, making thousands of dollars a week, in your own broker account, I think your friends are going to be pretty upset with you if you don't tell them about that. But the fact is, though, you've also got the opportunity to really change your life with CFX, and that's where the treating the business like a real business and going to work with urgency, as if you've got overheads, as if you've got a stick that you need to, make those payments or whatever it is. So that's the key. If you look at the top income earners in the business, you've heard me say this before, very different people, very different backgrounds, different countries, different age groups, totally different personalities, but they have one thing in common. That is, they've understood the business they're in, and they have gone to work. They are working harder in many cases than they've ever done in their life. I know many of you know Hazel Moore, and she's another great example I like to use. She is someone that came into this, no experience, etc. But she said to me the other day, she said, "My goodness, I'm working so hard on this business." But she said, "I don't feel as if it's business. If it's work. I'm enjoying working with my team. I'm enjoying helping people to become successful." But she's on it, and so that's the key thing. So what Hugh was talking about today is the fact that this is a real business, and like a real business, you have to build up your income from the business. There are a lot of companies out there, shall we say, there are many, many, many companies in the network marketing industry. And by the way, this was why Hugh was skeptical. This is why I was skeptical. This is why everyone's skeptical when they first get introduced to CFX. Why? Because there is a load of rubbish out there. And sure, it might look good fast, initially, and people can make very fast money in those things they're taking out. 6 months later, they're gone. And they're set up to be like that. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day that had done just that, left CFX for one of these other businesses. I took a quick glance at the business and, oh dear, 6-12 months, that's all he's got with that business. It's going to be gone and he'll be back to square one again. So this is the difference with CFX. It's a real business. It's being set up properly. It's going to be around long term. We're getting some incredible things coming in the next few months. The copy trading, the Academy program, the $2.2 million headquarters. And by the way, the launch may now be December, and the reason for that is Waskar wants to do the event from the new headquarters. So it's a big thing, obviously, to have this new headquarters. Remember, it's a purchased headquarters. He wants basically everyone to be able to see the headquarters. So that's the idea. They're going to do the launch event from the headquarters in Panama, which is very exciting. But again, that's going to be a real jewel when we're showing people the business. So we've got such a lot to look forward to. And getting back to John again with his window cleaning business, and he came into CFX $300 now. I don't know what pack size. He's on a 30 or 40K pack now. And, you know, he's building a team. He's actually equaled his income in 6 months compared to his window cleaning business. So he started off with $300 instead of $11,000, so £11,000 rather, with his window cleaning business, and which took him 5 years to build up a significant income. In CFX, he's done it in 6 months. But again, he's treating the business seriously. So, you know, these are key things. If you can get your head around that, you know, many people come into CFX. It's one of the wonderful things of the business. You may have never had a business before in your life. So there's a lot to learn, hence why we have these training sessions so that you can pick up and learn from people that are experienced and are happy to share that experience with you. You've got that support structure. You've got all the tools you need with the PowerBuild system, you've got your upline support and everything else that we do. So the bottom line is with you. How serious do you want to take the business? How much money do you want to make from it? Just basically, if you're going to set yourself some goals. I might do another training session on goals again. I know we've done it before, but I think there's a lot of new people in the business now that could do with that. Being goal focused. Again, if you talk to Hugh and all the other leaders out there, they're all goal orientated. They've set targets for themselves. I'm sure Hugh is now that he's the director, is setting targets to go president. And so that's really important as well. So I digressed a bit there, but all of this stuff is helpful. And this has been a great training session today, just to give you an understanding that this is a real business. You've got to build up. And by the way, one thing I would also just stress, I've heard some people say, you know, you can't take any money out of CFX. That's absolutely not the case. The feature of the business is like a real business. You can decide how much you want to take out. You can take out more, you can take out less. You know, you might decide you want to get up to the 100K pack faster, so you take out less money from the business. You know, I got to the 100K in 8 months. I think I took out around $30,000 over that first 8 months. So not a lot of money, but it was just a nice salary, as it were. But there are other people in my team that could have done it in the same time frame. It took them 11 months instead. Why? Because they took out more money from the business. So you've got those options. Again, it's a real thing. So, you know, you can take out some very serious money from this business very quickly, particularly if you go to work. And that's something I'm seeing across the board. And the other really nice thing that I'm seeing is that there are so many people in the team now that started off at $300 are now hitting the 100K pack. Brian did it just, I think, yesterday. I personally, I think I've got 5 or 6 people that I've personally introduced have all gone to the 100K pack. Hazel's one of them. So again, remarkable business that someone can start off with just $300, have a 100K pack, which is going to be turning over between $4,000 to $5,000 a week, which is life-changing for most people. So to have that kind of opportunity with a business you can start off with just $300 is remarkable. So hope you found that training session useful. Ray, I think, is going to be off next weekend as well, so we might do something a bit different next week. But thanks very much for coming on the call, Hugh. Really appreciate that. And as I said, hope everyone found that useful. So we've had a good number on the call. We've got 455 people on the call today, which is fantastic. So well done, guys. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll speak soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Richard. Bye-bye.